After the success of Final Fantasy, it was only natural for developer SquareSoft to release a sequel to this epic RPG. A year later in 1988, fans saw the release of FF2 on the NES. This video is going to turn back the clock and look at some of the facts surrounding this old school classic. This is Hellfire RPGs and you're watching Final Fantasy II Know the Facts. There are countless staples in the Final Fantasy series, many of which made their debut in Final Fantasy II. Here we had the first Cid, the first Chocobo, and the very first Moogle. Now I bet you're all wondering where the name Moogle came from. Moogle is a blend of the Japanese words for mole and bat, and if you think about it, that actually makes a lot of sense. They didn't start off looking this way though. Initially, the Moogle was created as a race called the Cleon who lived in the cold regions of the world. This was of course scrapped, however their initial sprites and race details ended up becoming the beaver race. Have you ever wondered what Mughals taste like? Well, you can taste them for yourself at the Iroza Cafe in Japan's Akihabara district. They serve a dish called mini pancakes of Mowgli, which looks delicious, much better than the fat chocobo curry anyway. I almost feel bad for the little guy. Something else that originated in Final Fantasy II is the Kowarl, you know, the giant leopard with the long whiskers? This enemy is based on an alien creature from the 1939 short story Black Destroyer by A.E. Van Vogt. Did you catch the FF2 reference in Final Fantasy IX? The idol in Rama tells a story of a battle between the nations and a man named Joseph who sacrificed his life so that a young band of rebels could live to fight the Empire. This narrative directly refers to Joseph and the events surrounding him in Final Fantasy II. FF2 was originally released in Japan in 1988, and back then you would have expected a US localized release like what had been done with Final Fantasy I. However, this game didn't leave Japanese shores until 2003 as part of Final Fantasy Origins. But did you know that in 1991 it was actually going to happen? In fact, a prototype cartridge was produced titled Final Fantasy Dark Shadows over Palakia. Unfortunately, this was later cancelled in favour of the more recent Final Fantasy IV, which was then named Final Fantasy II in the US. There were some notable changes made during this prototype stage due to the religious imagery policies Nintendo had at the time. The Star of David used in the dungeon design was replaced with a triangle. Also, the cross that replaces the character's face on the pause screen after death was replaced with a gravestone. If you watched FF1 Know the Facts, you'll know that many of the spells were severely bugged. Unfortunately, things weren't much better this time around. Barrier doesn't grant protection against ice at level 8, Dispel doesn't work at all, Protect only works on the caster and not the other party members, Sap won't work on enemies with more than 256 MP, and finally Ultima, which is meant to increase in power relative to the level of the other spells the caster has. But if Ultima and the other spells are at level 16, Ultima will do a measly 500 damage. Magic aside, when a party member dual wields two weapons, the game only calculates damage based on the first weapon despite the sprite actually attacking with two weapons. Here's another bug in the NES version. In a party formation during battle, the middle two characters will be attacked far more often than the top and bottom slot characters. This means, for instance, if one of the middle slot characters were to be put in the back row, then the front middle slot character would take as many hits as the other three characters combined. Have you heard of the term Peninsula of Power? This term originated in FF1 and refers to certain places of the world map that has stronger monsters intended to be encounters from other future areas. This essentially allows early access to more difficult monsters. In FF2 there are 3 tiles on the cape south of Altair that allow random encounters with Mysidian area monsters. This allows for some early power leveling, if you can handle it. In the Japanese version, Leon's name is Leonhardt, which is also the last name of Squall from Final Fantasy VIII. The interesting thing here is that in Kingdom Hearts, Squall changed his name to Leon after failing to save Hollow Bastion from the Heartless. You've got to wonder if this was partly inspired by the name change back in Final Fantasy II. The Japanese make some pretty weird adverts. The original Japanese advert for FF2 is definitely on the strange side. For some reason, someone thought it would be a great idea to film a bunch of video game developers working on Final Fantasy II. Surely they could have come up with something better than this. It wouldn't be a Know the Facts if we didn't see a Final Fantasy appearance in the media. During an episode of the hit series Chuck proposes that he and Sarah play Final Fantasy II to help pass time.
No! No! Damn wishbone. Your turn.
I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. We've been sitting around for 2 weeks. We need a mission, Chuck.
So we hit a dry spell. Are you ready for some real excitement? Final Fantasy 2. Morgan and I spent an entire summer devouring this one.
What is the point of being a spy if there aren't any missions?
That's all, folks. This was Hellfire RPGs. Thanks for watching. If you liked this, check out the Know the Facts for all the other FF games. See you next time.